This is what we're here for. This is the new AWOL Vision Aetherion Max projector. It's a triple RGB laser projector, 4K, ultra short throw. And I can tell you everything you need to know about it. But also, check out this setup. I actually finally might want to switch from a TV to a proper projector setup. And of course, while you can buy the projector by itself, you can also get it in this, what they call AWOL Vision Vanish Cabinet. Any guesses why they call it the Vanish Cabinet? Okay, so the Vanishing Cabinet was a bit bigger than I had expected, but we pulled in the whole TechChap team. We've got Pete and James to get it together, and now it looks great. So a big thank you to AWOL Vision for sending this over, and also for partnering with me on this video. This is a 120-inch motorized ALR projector screen built into this very nice TV stand, or should I say projector stand. And this may just be the best thing I've ever had in the studio. I mean, it turns any room into a proper home cinema. But then with the press of a button, you can hide it away again. Fantastic. Also, guess how much this setup is. I'll tell you at the end. In all seriousness though, if you are investing in a high-end projector setup, then you will want an ALR or ambient light rejecting screen. Whether it's built into a fancy cabinet or a motorized floor rising setup, both of which allow you to hide the screen when it's not in use, so it's not dominating your living room, which is not something you can do with a regular TV. But projectors are all about size and scale, far and away bigger than a regular TV, and just giving you the most immersive cinematic experience, but without actually going to the cinema and paying 15 quid for a bag of popcorn and a Diet Coke. Can I show you just how much bigger 120 inches is? Let's superimpose what a 65-inch TV would look like here. Pretty small. In fact, this is over 3 times the surface area at 120 inches versus a 75-inch versus a 97-inch. Once you go 120 inches, it's hard to go back. And technically, this will project up to 200 inches. And AWOL Vision do sell the world's first 150-inch Fresnel ALR screen. So if you do want to wall mount your ALR, well, you can go even bigger than this. But for me, 120 inches is plenty. To be fair, there are a handful of TVs that are 90, 100-inch plus sizes, but the prices become astronomical. Look at this 115-inch TCL. They're incredibly heavy, they take up a lot of space, tricky to wall mount, and also there's no way of hiding that big black void on your wall. Whereas, having an ultra short throw UST projector like this, with a huge screen that you can also potentially even hide away, this is the first time I've properly been tempted to switch from my TV to a projector setup. However, if the picture quality isn't good enough, if it's not bright enough to use during the day, if the response time isn't fast enough for games, and if the software isn't particularly nice to use, size isn't everything, and you're just going to switch back to a TV. That's pretty much always been my personal experience. But could things be different with this guy? This is the AWOL Vision Aetherion Max. Brand new for 2026. There's 2 models, a Pro and a Max, and the main difference is brightness. 2600 ISO lumens for the Pro and 3300 ISO lumens for the Max, which I have here. But they're both 4K, ultra short throw. We have this RGB pure triple laser, and the hardware is very impressive. And not just because it looks a bit like an F-35 fighter jet. Here are some of the headline specs to give you an idea. We're talking 80 to 200 inches, 4K, up to 120 FPS with VRR, albeit only at 1080p, sadly. Still no 4K 120. Dolby Vision, HDR10+, IMAX enhanced. We've got gaming modes with auto low latency and 1 millisecond response times. It also boasts 110% of the Rec 2020 color gamut. And with AWOL Vision's enhanced black levels, you're getting much better contrast, which is particularly noticeable when you're watching in a dark room. I mean, this scene in Rogue One is just spectacular. They even support 3D, if you fancy putting your glasses on and firing up Avatar again. I'm also very pleased to report that we get Google TV OS built in. No clunky custom software that's horrible to navigate and never gets updated. It's fast, we have all the streaming apps, Chromecast, AirPlay 2. You can even set it up with Google Home and Apple HomeKit, Amazon Alexa. And for connectivity, this is one of the first projectors to have Wi-Fi 7 built in, plus a gigabit LAN port if you prefer a wired connection. We get 3 full-fat HDMI 2.1s, a USB Type-C, and a couple of Type-A's. Also, just a minor point, but the built-in speakers in this AWOL Vision are so much better than they needed to be. Although, of course, if you're investing this much into a projector, then you'll want an equally good audio setup with a soundbar or speaker system, and we do have an HDMI with eARC. And as the USB-C has a DisplayPort Alt mode, you can use the bundle cable to plug in an output from your phone, your iPad, or even use it as a massive second screen from your laptop. And you could go with AWOL's Thunderbeat audio system, which is their wireless surround sound designed for large screen setups, with an ultra-wide soundstage to match. This comes as a 4.2.1 or a 4.2.2 setup, meaning 4 wireless surrounds and either a single or dual 8-inch subwoofers. But the real magic is this actually integrates with the Projector's already terrific local speakers as the central audio unit, which is actually an industry first, making this a 5.2.2 system. It just feels like every part of this has been considered, from the sapphire glass, the specialized coatings, the titanium thermal mesh also helps keep it cool, and unlike most projectors, you can barely hear this thing when it's on. We also get this nifty motorized lens cover, even the quality of the remote, which is better than most flagship TV remotes I've used. You can even plug in this USB dongle, so with the press of a single button, you can turn on the projector and bring your screen up. Everything I've said so far applies to both the Aetherion Pro and the Aetherion Max projectors. The biggest difference between them is the brightness. And obviously with projectors, brightness is pretty important. So have we reached a point where projectors can match a good TV in a bright room? Well, not quite. You can see during the day, the brightness, the contrast is still lacking, even with a fancy ALR screen. It just looks kind of grey and you have a little bit of that dirty screen effect. Sub 1000 nits and about 6000 to 1 contrast ratio, a fancy OLED TV, this is not. Although good luck getting a 120 or 130 inch OLED. However, at night, or if you can control the lighting in your room, it's literally a night and day difference. It looks incredible, although I would say the HDR experience is still a little bit underwhelming. It's just not bright enough to make highlights really pop, so it can still look a little flat. But these issues are par for the course with projectors, and I would say this Aetherion Max is the best I've used. I also appreciate that we have a dedicated 24 FPS film mode and plenty of picture modes to choose from, including dedicated HDR and filmmaker modes. One thing I have noticed though is that most HDR modes lock the settings, with motion smoothing turned on, which is a bit diabolical. Only Filmmaker and IMAX HDR modes turn it off, or at least give you the option. Also, check this out, the remote has a dedicated AI button, and using the processing power of the new chips that these projectors use, you can turn on AI upscaling, you've got auto picture modes. I couldn't immediately tell much of a difference to the picture quality, but I'm happy to leave these on. So it's the ultimate big screen, movie night, watching the game experience, right? But what about gaming? Well, quite frankly, it's awesome. Yes, the 120 FPS limits you to 1080p, the gaming picture mode drops the brightness a bit, which is a shame, but 1 millisecond response time, which is a literal game changer compared to pretty much all other projectors, where you can often feel the delay. We get Dolby Vision gaming, ALM, VRR, and just the experience of playing on a screen this big with this picture quality. Some hardware limitations aside, it is just so much fun. Okay, let me wrap this up. And AWOL Vision is a relatively new company. They only started in 2020. A couple of years back, I tested their LTV 3500 Pro ultra short through projector, which I was very impressed with. But now for 2026, they're back with this Aetherion series. And while not perfect, this is the best ultra short through projector I've tested in terms of picture quality, design, the UI. Has it resolved all the compromises you have with using a projector? No. And this isn't better than a flagship TV, particularly an OLED. It's just a different proposition. It's 120, 130, 150, 200 inches, and a lot less money than an equivalent TV. And if you can get yourself a motorized ALR screen that hides it away at a press of a button, then your partner will be even happier. Speaking of money, if you do fancy buying the Aetherion Pro or Max, you may have to wait a little bit as it is still on Kickstarter, but getting in early means you can get the Max model for around $2,000, which is more than half the price of the $4,500 MSRP. And if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description. Of course, the ALR screens also add a fair bit to the price. This Vanish bundle is about $9,000, which is pretty eye-watering, but the same ballpark as that 115-inch TCL. So what do we think? Would you be tempted to switch to a projector setup like this with the AWOL Vision, Aetherion Pro or Max? And also, big question, what's the first thing you'd watch? And why is it either Top Gun Maverick, Rogue One, or Band of Brothers? So if you want to check out the new Aetherion Pro or Max, I will leave links to their Kickstarter in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.